everyone, this is Dr. Nisha Nujumudeen. In today's session, we'll have a quick look into what are the other important concepts related to inflation. What is suppressed inflation, monetary inflation, imported inflation, followed by what is shrinkflation and greedflation as well. Quickly, all these 5 concepts will be discussed in a matter of 10 minutes. Having said that, all those who have missed Concept 1 to Concept 27, make sure that you click on the playlist of this particular video series to revise all the previous concepts. Now, what is suppressed inflation? It refers to a situation when the government is artificially trying to keep the prices lower. How? Through various price controls or through other interventions. When there is too much of price rise, or let's say a situation when the aggregate or the total demand is more than the aggregate or total supply, automatically prices keeps on shooting up or it keeps on increasing, leading to a situation of what? High inflation. Now, to further prevent the prices to increase more, the government will start interfering by introducing certain price controls or through certain other intervention measures. And now, artificially, the government will start decreasing the prices. They will not allow the prices to further increase during that point of time. This is called as suppressed inflation in simple terms. This suppressed inflation is also called as repressed inflation. This is another terminology for suppressed inflation. Now, during the suppressed inflation, when the government is artificially trying to keep the prices at a lower rate, do you think it is good for the economy? Definitely no. This suppressed inflation can also lead to economic distortion. What happens is that the market forces like demand and supply, you can see a mismatch or imbalance in them. At the same time, suppressed inflation can also hide the true cost of living of the people, because artificially the government is lowering or keeping the prices or inflation lower by eliminating, or let's say by having certain price controls or intervention. This is what you should know with regard to suppressed inflation. The next one is monetary inflation. Now, monetary inflation in simple terms means it is a kind of inflation or price rise when there is too much of increase of money supply in the economy. When money supply increases, automatically what happens? You, me, everybody will have sufficient money in our hands to purchase. Automatically, the PPP, purchasing power parity, or let's say purchasing power capacity of the people to buy a product increases. Because of that, your aggregate or total demand increases. So now when that happens, automatically, slowly and gradually, the inflation shoots up. Too much of demand, which means you have so much of desire or demand to buy a commodity. Automatically, the demand for inflation comes up. Slowly and gradually, seeing this particular situation, what happens? The producers also start increasing the prices, leading to the cost push inflation or the supply shock inflation. So at the end of the day, because of increase in money supply, the inflation or the price rise happens, leading to something called as monetary inflation in simple terms. The next one is imported inflation. Now, this particular concept called as imported inflation, it refers to a situation in which there is an increase in the price of goods and services. Why? Due to the higher cost of imported commodities. For example, in our country, India, we frequently and often import gold. Because of the high price of gold, which is an imported product, automatically it leads to what? A situation called as imported inflation. And now, if you see certain current affairs data, it is important to note that as per September 2024 data, our country, India, witnessed a 13-month high imported inflation. And now the imported inflation grew by 2% in our country, India, as per 2023-24 data. And now the major items that we import in our country, India, include gold, oil and fat, and also chemical products. When the price of these imported commodity increases, automatically it leads to something called as imported inflation. Now, having said that, the next important concept is greedflation. So now, from the term greed, we understand that somebody is greedy or thirsty for getting something. So now this greedflation is associated with companies or corporates. Now, when there is a corporate greed to earn more profit, automatically it will lead to what? Increase in the price of the final goods and services. So now that will lead to what? Again, a price rise or inflation. So basically, greedflation in simple terms means when the corporate greed drives to inflation. Now, in order to increase the profits, what will a producer do? They'll start artificially pushing the price of the commodity wherein they want to increase their profits. And now, at the same time, even though the cost of inputs in production, like raw material, wages, interest, etc., even though those cost of the input cost is not high also, artificially these producers will start pushing to increase the prices, leading to a situation called as greedflation, so that these producers can end up earning too much of profits. And now this greedflation, do you think our country India is experiencing it? If you see 60% of the net profit a country India received over the past few years shows that the presence of greedflation do exist. In spite of in spite of not having an increase in the input cost also, many a times the producers started charging higher prices for the products they sold in the market, leading to what? Increase in the price of the product. So this has led to a situation called as greedflation. Out of their greediness to earn excess profit, they increase the price of the commodities. At the end of the day, the customers who finally buy the commodity from the retail market suffers. And now this greedflation, it actually results in a situation called as profit push or profit price spiral rather than wage price spiral. See now, under cost push inflation, when we discussed in previous video, I told you that there are 3 types of cost push inflation. What are they? Raw material push inflation, wage push inflation, and profit push inflation. So now, wage push inflation is also called as what? Wage price spiral. For example, if the cost of living becomes very difficult because of price rise or inflation, automatically what happens? The employees will start demanding more wages to the employers or the producers. Now, they will start increasing the wages. But now, what will this producer or the employer do? They will shift the burden of increase in wages, because increase in wages what? The increase in input cost for the producer. They will start pushing that burden to the price of the final product that they produce. Automatically, the price rise is happening. These employees, when they go out in the market to purchase the commodity, they still end up paying higher prices. No matter there is an increase in wages also, they still end up paying what? Higher prices for the commodities in the market because of inflation. Higher wages leads to higher prices. Higher price again leads to increase in higher wages. But still people end up paying high prices for buying a commodity, which is because of high inflation. It is a wage price spiral. But this greed inflation is not wage price spiral. Rather, it is profit price spiral, which means the producers or the employers, they will start pushing or increasing the price of the products artificially, showing there is a scarcity of the commodity because they want to have a profit push inflation to earn excess profit out of their greediness. That is called as greedflation in simple terms. Mostly the companies or the corporates basically follow this strategy. The next one is shrinkflation. Now, shrinking means what? Decreasing the size of something. Now, shrinkflation is a type of concept which refers to the increase in the price of products. But then, how can it increase the price of products? To make it in a very simple term, shrinkflation refers to reducing the size of a product and selling that particular product at the same price, at a higher price. That is called as shrinkflation in simple term. In shrinkflation, the price of commodity is not increased. Rather, the producers, what strategy they do is, for example, the Haldiram ka aloo bhujia, or let's say a Haldiram chips packet of 55 gram was costing you, let's say, 200 rupees. Now, the same 55 gram, what did the producers do? Without reducing or increasing the prices, they just reduce the quantity from 55 gram of chips packets to 41 gram. and they're selling it at what? The same 200 rupees. This shows that the quantity of the commodity is reduced and it is being sold at what? The same prices. Which means the customers are not knowing this is happening. They are buying, let's say, 55 gram wala packet for 200 rupees, chips packet. At the same time, the same 55 gram packet they have reduced to 41 grams and they're selling at what price? 200 gram. So this is a kind of hidden inflation. The customers do not feel it much because they are not seeing any variations in the prices. But the quantity of the commodity has slightly decreased or shrinked. This is called as shrinkflation in simple term. So now this has been adopted by many companies in India. The Hindustan Unilever company, your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, your Haldiram, all these companies follow the strategy to earn higher profits. So these are the different types of concepts related to inflation. All those who have missed the previous concepts and topics, please make sure that you click on the playlist of this particular video link and make sure that you revise those concepts as well. I hope it is crystal clear for all of you. Any doubt, any queries, and also feel free to put your feedbacks via the comment box. Thank you and Jai Hind.